Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that's important to us and that weighs heavy on us, and we'd be remiss if we didn't have a conversation about this topic. We're going to be talking about being black in America, how we got here, and the senseless killings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, and so many others. But before we begin, if you can join us with a moment of silence. Thank you.
How many more marches? How many more signs? How many more lives? How many more times? Take a look around. Can you see it now? Don't be colorblind, cause when they're killing mine, they'll try to justify it. Oh, each and every time.
So, how do we want to start this?
It's a topic that we're not going to be able to discuss everything in this one setting because there's just so much to unpack. There's so much to digest. There's so much that we can possibly go over that we just don't have the time. So we'll have to, try to make this as concise and to the point as possible, and hopefully leave you with some thought-provoking, questions and so forth that hopefully starts a discussion with you and others. But I think just starting off with the fact that we have to recognize that there's an issue. We have to recognize that there's an issue in our country, and it's a deep-rooted issue that I think we've tried to pass over. We've tried to cover up for centuries, for a very long time. And I think that that's because America doesn't want to admit to the things that they have done. And that's a big part of moving on, forgiving, owning up, accountability. And I think that we just seen the lack of that over the years. And now with it being in our faces, once again, because we thought we were past this, but now with it being in our faces again in another way of police brutality, I think now we have to, ask the question, have we necessarily gotten over racism in America?
I don't think we got past anything. I think the last time that happened, whether it was with Mike Brown, it happened before with the brutal beatings of Rodney King, and it happened to many people, black men and women, for years. The only difference is that it's getting recorded now, and we're able to see the gruesome acts and the brutalization of our people, and it's very upsetting. It's very disheartening, it's sick, it's unforgivable, and unforgettable. When black bodies is no longer of value, I think that's a cause for concern and a cause for change. And we've been fighting a fight all over the world, whether it's South Africa, whether it's, the UK, whether it's wherever it is. But today we're kind of specifically talking about America in the fact that this country was built on theft of a land from a native people, the Native Americans, and then the enslavement of black people, and then the carrying out of almost indentured servitude to Asian Americans, to internment camps, to the Japanese, to the exclusion of Jewish people. It's just been, the whole country, the entire nation has been, basically from start to now, has always been oppressive, theft.
And who were the oppressors in all these situations?
White people.
The common denominator. Like, for anyone who hasn't thought about how you just named the Asian community, brown community, black community, there's always been one oppressor in the U.S. society. in this society, in this country, there's always been one oppressor.
The only thing I'll add to that, and obviously it's not all white people
Right.
that has been oppressors. We have had allies and advocates to help, in trying to rectify issues that's been plaguing in different communities, and specifically in the Black community. But we have to get to the point where we can all accept that white people have contributed, and including the government of the United States, have all had a hand in the oppression, suppression, killing, beating, imprisonment of so many different people. And it's unfortunate that we can call America great. And I'm just trying to figure out what does that great mean, and to whom is it great for? And I don't want to sound, as if like I hate America. That's not the point of this video. But the first thing in any of the videos that we've had in the past is acknowledging something first. You have to deal with the truth and the facts first. You have to dig deep and figure out what is the root of what's going on. It's not Black people that's the issue. It's not brown people that's the issue. It's a system that was created for the benefit of a certain group of people, and who wants to continue having a certain privilege, and oftentimes that leaves a group of people or multiple groups of people in communities beneath them and feeling lesser than and valued that much less. Yeah. And it's disheartening.
And I mean, to just sort of break that down, when you're saying that the system wasn't built for us. So when people say, well, we're all created equal, we look at the Constitution and the rights and so forth that we have. But when those rights, when those Bill of Rights and that Constitution was put together, it was not put together to include man, the Black man, because Black people were not considered a person at the time when those rights were, established and put into law. Black people were not considered a person. They're considered property because they were slaves. So therefore, they were not even considered as a part of the man that was created equal for the constitutional rights that we have. Until this day, although we try to now say that under that, we include the other communities and we include Black people and so forth, it was never initially made for us. So understanding that. And what it comes down to, I think, is the low education that people have in regards to the history of America. And I fault that to the education system, the school system. Growing up in elementary school and grade school, we were never taught the actual truth of how this country came to be. And that's because, as we know, winners write history. And so they are the ones that are telling the story, and it's their narrative. But they don't talk about how when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean, how he came upon this country. He didn't he discovered it in the fact that, oh my gosh, look what I found. But as he came here, he then took it away from the natives that were here, and then to go over and get the slaves and have them come over and to build up this country. And so we're not taught that truth until we get to college. And then at that point, you have to go ahead and study history and take, those courses to actually get the depth and the real truth that is not taught. And so from a young age growing up, there's a misconception, there's miseducation as to the history of, the U.S. And that in turn makes you have a different perspective and interpret the facts or the information given and the lack thereof. And so now when you're an adult, you're like, listen, that's not true. If I'm not going out and doing the research and finding out what the truth is, you're only going off of what it is that your teacher is telling you, which does not cover the whole picture, which is unfortunate, because then how many of us are then going out seeking the truth? Especially those who are not in our communities.
So let's break that down a little bit. You mentioned, Black people or Black men or Black women were not the intent of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
Men, the intent of that word is for white men.
Right. Was. Mm-hmm.
Not white women, not black men, and not black women,
Mm-hmm.
and not any other minority or communities outside of white men. Let's get that clear. And if there's anyone that challenges that, just really look back and really research that a black person was considered property.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially, I believe it was 1/5
mm-hmm.
of a person
mm-hmm.
is what they were categorized as or determined as.
Yeah.
You have essentially reduced the value of a black person to part of an actual human being.
Exactly.
You are considered like a mule. You're considered a laborer and not a human being.
Yeah.
And
if I had a fifth, I cut you into fives, you're only one portion of that those 5 sections. 1/5.
That is a problem.
That's insane.
And when you lay ground to a new nation with this idea and mentality in mind, what do you expect 400, 500, 600 years after you've written this document and have this congregation of your forefathers? What do you expect? Of course, we're still going to be seen as lesser than.
Yeah.
Of course, you can continue to kill our black men, our black women, and our black babies. Because we're not even, to this day, valued from the system that is
mm-hmm.
a person.
Yeah.
Right? And
you're talking about being oppressed for being enslaved for hundreds of years. This isn't something that's like, 50 years.
I'm not even just talking about the slavery. I'm talking about the fact that you are lesser than.
Yeah.
Regardless if you're enslaved or not, you are lesser than.
No, but I'm saying that in regards to the mentality of how deeply embedded it is, that we're talking about for hundreds of years, this system was in place and going for hundreds of years. So, most people don't even live to 100. So that means that every time, over and over, you are teaching and reteaching and reteaching and reteaching this system, this way of doing, this thought process to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. How will you expect to break that by now?
The other thing I want to comment on systems, and we always say system and systemic and these words, just to kind of my understanding and my thoughts on it. A system is only as good as the components of that system, which are the people. So if you have a system that is broken, our people essentially are either broken or they are implementing strategies that are broken. And it's so easy to say the system is broken instead of recognizing and acknowledging the system is made up of individuals who have a certain motive and agenda. And whether it's intentional or not, the result and output of that system is inequality, is injustice, is death to a certain group at a higher level than what would be the appropriate amount for white counterparts, in jailed or killed or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the same throughout history until that system and or people fixes it. Right. And that's what's going on right now. That's what's to get to the point of what these protests that you're seeing in the United States, across the world, that is just a little bit of a glimpse as to why this is going on. Because it's not just about George Floyd, rest his soul. It's not just about Ahmaud Arbery, rest his soul. It's not just about Breonna Taylor, bless her soul.
Or the countless others.
Or the countless and numbers. The number is high for those people that has died at the hands of law enforcement or their white peers who has taken up, the mission to do what law enforcement should be doing.
Yeah. And then you have the counter of that of, you know, there's so many counters, there's so many, you know, by all means, everyone is able to have their own perspective. But one of the most important things that you have to do is to do your research. And, you know, the counters in regards to the system, for one, is obviously the saying beat the system, which means that there's an issue with the system, and so I have to find a way to get around it. But for those who feel that the system is not the issue, there are some people who feel like it's not the system, it's the individual, and it's the individual person. Or they think that the stereotypical things, Black people are lazy, or Black people just don't want to do anything, and they don't want to get out of the ghetto and out of the poverty and so forth, which is not true. There are some hard-working individuals that no matter what they do, they still can't seem to rise and get out. Or let's not even forget the fact of the way in which you have grouped these individuals, this group of people, and have pushed them over into, you know, a certain place or a certain area to where they have no other choice because you've moved them over here. For example, you redlined people. You have set up to where you have said and put an actual red line on the map and said, you cannot come over here. You are not allowed over here. And you form these ghettos that people are to live in, right? To live in, and you form these ghettos for them to live in. And you don't have the proper education system. You take away the funding and so forth and the resources for education, so therefore they're not educated. And then you lock up their fathers and so forth for, you know, petty crimes and so forth, and then give them these jail sentencing disparities and so forth. And then you expect for them to be able to get out of jail with no rights, without the right to vote, or to have a broken home without the parents, and then still be able to thrive and be successful and so forth. Well, how is that possible? You know, or you know, some of the things that people are also saying is there's so much Black on Black crime. Why are you so upset about white police officers killing Black people?
Let's get to that. You just unpacked a whole basic.
There's so much.
How just from the communities and the contrarian view to say, well, you know, why they're lazy and why can't they just do better for themselves or move into neighborhoods?
Yeah, look at this Black person who's done good.
You just explained how the system can actually turn into how it creates this kind of circumstance for like an entire community.
Yeah.
You know? From the redlining all the way to the defunding or reduced resources and opportunities for schooling and proper schooling and education, all the way to how it can affect the family structure, how it can affect the wealth of that community, the value of your home, if you're even able to buy a home.
Right.
It's all of that, and that you had to say all of that just to answer that question, that simple question. Well, why can't they get themselves out of this situation?
Right. Because
the system has created in such a way, in such a strategically almost perfect way, to keep a group of people in their place, who they believe is less valued. It's astonishing.
Yeah.
And
people still won't recognize that.
This is the importance of any kind of protest that we have. It must be strategic in nature. It cannot be just protesting and going out and, you know, holding up signs and that is effective and helpful to a certain point. But if you're going to dismantle a system, you cannot do that by just showing up and putting up your black fist and saying we want change. Right. What is the change? Right. What is it? You know, how long can you protest for? What are you protesting for? And ensuring that we're unified in that strategic front. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Yeah. This is a massive system that I think people fail to realize has taken centuries to build it. Yes. And it will take a while to dismantle it. And there are many interests that would not like it broken down. Right. Because there's a privilege that comes with it. Right. There's wealth that comes from this system for other groups. Right. And Now it's not just about us. Now it's about when you do this, you affect these interest groups, these people, these organizations, whether that's the morgue, whether that's the correctional facility, whether that's, you know what I mean, the prison to pipeline.
Around.
I mean, school to pipeline. It's just
you need all these things to happen in order for everyone to get what it is that they are trying to get, or to employ all these people to make everything go round. You need all these things to happen. It's insane. And like you said, in regards to the amount of time that it's taken, which is why I say, this has been going on for centuries. You've been enslaved, and then after you've been enslaved, and then once they, abolish slavery, then you have to worry about the segregation, and then you had that for years as well, and then Reconstruction, and it's like we've just been fully, integrated. We've just, basically fully ended discrimination and so forth only 60 years or so ago. And so it's like, for centuries of things going on, you're thinking that we are just going to forget about what happened and we're going to be repaired and have moved on just from, 60 years ago, from something that you've been doing for centuries. It's nearly impossible. But that just goes to show too, just how much of America will not take accountability for their actions and for what it is that they've done. Instead, this does not exist. We've gotten over it. We've elected Obama. You had a black president. Oh, the hell that he got, and the hell with that too, because that didn't prove anything, and it still doesn't to this day. And so, people will say, well, you guys kill each other. What about that? We kill each other all the time. Black on black crime. It's unreal.
So we don't call it white on white crime. We don't do that. We don't call it Asian on Asian crime. Hispanic on Hispanic. I'm sorry, Latino on Latino crime. What do you call it? Just crime, right?
Right.
So why is it so important to say it's black on black crime?
The emphasis on it.
Now, I'm not saying that there isn't something within our community that we should be mending and fixing and reconciling. But that's not the topic right now.
Right.
Because we can just as easy say the vast majority, statistically speaking, white people are killed by white people. White cops kill white cops.
Or kill white people.
Right. That's what I meant. But, you know what I mean? But it's disproportionately higher for a white policeman, or just police in general, to kill black people in comparison to other groups.
Right.
And that needs attention, acknowledgement, and rectification.
Exactly.
Is that a word? Rectification?
Yeah. I understand it. If it's not, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
It's, yeah.
It's sad. To just give an idea of how senseless some of the deaths have been more recently, specifically surrounding Ahmaud Arbery, who was gunned down, who was hunted by two men while he was jogging. They killed him as he was taking a jog. Those men believed that he was trespassing in their communities, and literally chased him during his morning jog and killed him.
And on top of that, after he fell to the ground, the guy that just killed him basically said some derogatory terms over him, saying "you effing enter."
Unfortunate. And then you have Breonna Taylor, who was sleeping in her home with her boyfriend at the time when police did not knock. Allegedly, they bust down her door, and out of fear, her boyfriend had fired at the police, and then they had fired back, unfortunately killing Breonna Taylor. And lastly, we have George Floyd, who has died recently, who has been the catalyst of the protests that you have seen happening nationwide due to him being killed by a police officer who allegedly kneeled down on his neck for almost 9 minutes. So just senseless.
I can't imagine how much pressure and what he was feeling, to have 9 minutes on someone that's definitely over 100 pounds, putting all this weight on your earway, on your neck. And then on top of that, if you see the different videos from different angles, there's other officers also on his back and on his legs, all while people are pleading for them to get off of his neck.
All while this is allegedly for a counterfeit $20 bill.
So it just kind of, when you hear things like this, it is just upsetting, frustrating, disheartening, sick to have to think that, is this man's life worth less than $20? Or just worth $20 for you to kill a man over something like this?
Yeah, who was fully detained,
And in regards to the police officers, they're not all police officers, obviously, in all of those killings that we just mentioned, and they're not all white. But that just shows how much of an issue it is. They don't have to be white. You just need to be in some kind of power or feel that that person is either lesser than, or you're just preserving your superiority complex.
Yeah.
For you to take justice into your hands. And it's the definition of injustice.
Yeah. And I don't know what the teachings are in the police academy as to when you should apply excessive force and when not, or are they teaching them unconsciously a group of people that should have applied more force or not because they deemed as more of a threat or what the case may be. I don't know, but we seem to continue to see this pattern over and over where there's excessive force towards people of color, specifically Black and brown communities.
This is very heavy stuff and very tragic stuff. Although it's become so numbing, What can we do about it? What can we do about the killings that's going on, from police officers?
There's probably a couple things that you can do, and real solutions is something that needs to be thought about now, because the protesting, although they are great and that it's great to stand for a cause, is something that we've done time and time again, and they have helped us move forward to some degree, but not to the extent to where we need to as a country. I know Denzel Washington, I was watching something, he said that this starts within the home, and I do agree with that to an extent, that it does start within the home, and that is teaching. Because to me, racism and hatred is not something that you just are. I think it's something that is taught, and it's something that you learn. And so teaching kids at a very young age love, but also teaching them the real history, I think is a start. But on a more, on a level in which we can do something now, what we've always discussed is exercising our right to vote, regardless if you believe it or not. But as much as things and change starts from the top, and also real effective change in your community starts at your state level. And in order for that change to happen, you have to understand and know who are the people that have authority and the power in your state to make change and effective change. And those are the people that you vote in. And by you not voting actually is a vote as well. And so if you don't like the things that are happening, then you have to look into what are the policies and who are the people in charge. Because they're the ones that are making the decisions. So definitely voting, I think, as well. And lastly, I would say, is the allies of the white people. They are also needed as well, and to not just be out there protesting with us and fist pumping and holding signs and so forth, but when that protesting is all said and done, and when this no longer is, breaking news, that you are still allying and you are still in the people of color communities, actually trying to help them make a change and giving back or contributing to them to help them hopefully excel or get to the next level, I guess.
I agree. I think for us to help to curb and stop and prevent or dissuade the killing of innocent Black lives, at the hands of law enforcement, I think there needs to be change from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a full believer that everything starts from the top and makes its way down. This trickle down effect kind of thought process to me is there's some conflicting aspects to it. I think there needs to be a lot of grassroots efforts, but there needs to be overall organization and strategy. And there are people on the ground that do this for a living.
Yeah.
You know, that's not just your celebrity. That's not just your politician. There are community activists. There's organizers, community organizers. There's and your local politicians. So yes, protest is important and can be effective to start that conversation. But then we also have to have individual conversations also with our allies. And then we also have to vote. I know people have different thoughts on voting. Voting is not every 4 years. Voting is every year. There's an election every year within your local government and or state, or, you know, you cannot just think every 4 years you go out to vote and that's you truly exercising that right to its fullest extent. That's voting for the president is vote for the folks that's going to immediately impact your life.
Exactly.
Your governor, your city council,
the chief of police.
Right. So depending on, I think we put something on our Instagram at Unwind these lines, and it said essentially, you, depending on your county or your city, who you vote in can appoint and or elect that chief, or you can vote for your chief, right? Probably in your county. So you have to research that stuff, but you have to take the opportunity to do that, because they are going to set the tone and the culture for your respective city, county, or municipality. So you have to, I personally believe, we should be voting consistently, and also ensuring that the people we vote in know exactly our stance on this topic and all the other topics that we think are of value or that we are passionate about.
Right.
And that means also when they get voted in, you are knocking on doors, you're calling them up when something is an issue. I voted for you. I voted for you. And I am organizing a group of people, and I want your presence there, and or I want you to vote this way. I prefer you vote this way on this bill that's coming up. Right? That is exercising your right, not just in voting, but also in demanding change from your elected officials. We pay our tax dollars. If you're a business owner, if you're a homeowner, whatever it is, you pay property taxes and you contribute in some way to your town and or state and federally, right? Did you know that each time a police kills a person in your community and there's a lawsuit against them, you are essentially paying for that if there's a lawsuit and there's a settlement? You know what that means? That means that the police that are doing the killings and that are shooting unarmed Black people, not only are their salaries paid by you, their pensions, but also when they commit that act that you disagree with and that you find offense to, or that impacts your life and or someone you love or your community, you are also paying that. And your tax dollars are paying for that. So if you think that it's not important to you that a Black life is of value to you, maybe the money that you're spending for those settlements may be important to you. So think about that. This is not just a Black thing. This is not just a moral thing. This is an economical, this is a money thing for you now.
Right.
If that's the only thing that you care about, then think about it from that perspective. The millions of dollars that go to these families and to the settlement, they are paid out in either claims through insurance, and the premiums are paid from the state and or the town, which you contribute to in your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
And that premium will continue to go higher if there's polices that are out of bounds and have no accountability and continue to do these killings and or brutalize or use force unnecessarily.
Yeah. Maybe they'll think about it differently when it's hitting their pockets in that way.
It's already hitting our pockets.
Yeah. Maybe you think about it a little differently. And it's not that we have anything against police officers, law enforcement, people who are actually out there protecting and serving and doing their part to ensure that they are staying within the standards and the guidelines and so forth as they should be with that type of authority, who are servants of the community. We have no issue with that. And this goes across any profession. But when you are someone who has no ethical standards and so forth, and who do not value someone's life, especially because of the race or the color of their skin, then that's when we have an issue in regards to that. So this is by no means to, say that we don't believe in those who are doing right and are doing good. We do, and are thankful for them. But it's those who unfortunately have not gotten the proper education, training, tools, and resources and so forth to do their job unbiased, ethically, and so forth, when they're out there every single day and are actually terrorizing or brutalizing people of color and so forth because of whatever motive that they have or whatever authority that they have that they are abusing. That's when we have an issue.
I agree. I agree. This is not a bash on police. The police that do the right thing.
Exactly.
There's a purpose for the police, but there's no space for police that take their badge and step on it by doing these outrageous and unjustly things. And there's also no place for their counterparts that stand by and watch it happen. Just like if there's any other, to your point, any other industry you're in, if you're reprimanded, but if you're an accomplice to anything, you're also impacted.
Yeah, it should be held accountable.
You have to be held accountable, and accountability is important when it comes to these things.
Definitely.
Just like anything else.
Definitely. Yeah. It's an unfortunate time, and to be in 2020 and to still be having this conversation and to still, feel like we're at a place where it seems like we're regressing instead of progressing. It's unfortunate and it's scary, especially, having children. And it's like, what is it that you tell your kids? How is it that you explain to them what's going on and why it's happening, and having these tough, conversations? It's really sad, and it's really disheartening, and it's really scary, time that we live in today. And so, I mean, I don't have the answer or the solution to it, but I just know that it's going to take time, and it's going to take way more than what it is that we're doing now. Great efforts, but it's much bigger than this. It's much more that has to be done than this.
And we'll continue to try our best in what we can do in contributing to the protests, and also understanding that there's a difference between a good cop and a bad cop, and expressing love to our brothers and sisters that are also impacted by this, and our allies that's out there that are with the cause and understand that this is a huge issue that needs to be fixed. We see you and we thank you for being with us during these times.
And we'll drop in the description box below some of the causes and so forth that you can actually donate to, or links as to how you can educate yourself as to what's going on. You can find some of those links in the description box below, so that way you can be more informed of what's happening.
Thanks for joining us and listening to our perspective.
Until next time.
All these beautiful, precious black lives, lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry?